Hey, we're live. Right, Bobby? We're live. Yes. So Harold Buchanan here with my trusty aide-de-camp, as we decided last night, Bobby Factor, the Bobby Factor. Is it Bobby Factor? Is it his last name, or is it the Bobby Factor?
I prefer the Bobby Factor. If you could attach that determiner, it makes
We'll
me
do that.
sound a lot better.
It's very similar to the Volco, right? I would like to refer to the Volco as the Volco.
I'm almost in the same league. I mean,
yeah, very much so. Yeah, in many ways.
Yes.
In many ways. I think you guys weigh the same. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
So good to see you, Bobby. And this is the Friday wrap-up show for the first full day of the con. So tons of activity, tons of people on the server, tons of people buying tickets. Right, tickets are still for sale, and lots going on. So without further ado, let's get straight to the guests. We have a handful of special guests. And I'm going to pull them in one at a time. How about that?
Ooh, very nice.
Right, let's see how this goes. So first, we have the great David Thompson. Hello, David.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, David, what's up?
We're doing good. What did you think of that intro music?
It was amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's big time. Cool. So Edgar, that's Edgar, right? Edgar created that and did the video work. He's extraordinary. He has a lot of talents. We're just scratching the surface. I think, but good to see you. So let me add a couple more, if you don't mind, because I like a big crowd in here. Next, it's Marty. Hey, Marty, how are you? From Roll Dice Take Names.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm excited to be here.
Good to see you, Marty. And have you considered Roll Names Take Dice? Because
the full name is Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and we had to condense it to make it fit everywhere. So that was a mistake about 9 years ago of making a name too long.
Wow. Yes. And then of course the RDTN, but then you sound like a Star Wars robot, right?
But that's fine. That's fine. So yeah, well, you go by the moniker RDTN a lot also.
No, good.
It works. Well, it works.
Good to see you here, Marty. And then of course, last but not least is the great Ananda Gupta. Ananda, how are you?
How are you, Harold? Bobby, David.
Doing good.
Hey,
we're doing good. I like the lighting effect there. It makes you seem I don't know what's the word, Bobby?
Like in a witness protection program.
If you just muffle the voice when you talk, you're right there.
Nice.
It's like you're confessing something on 60 Minutes. We'll call you the whistleblower.
I'm a little bit backlit. I mean, I've got all sorts of confessions ready if you want to confess.
We do want to hear something at some point, but good to see everybody. And I wanted to first of all, I know David and Marty are on the East Coast. Marty, you're on the East Coast, right?
I am. Yes.
And somebody said the South isn't the East Coast, but I think are you in one of the Carolinas?
I am. I'm in North Carolina, so the East Coast. And at 10 p.m. here, it's way past my bedtime, so I'm trying to drink caffeine over here and stuff to stay up. So
sweet.
Good. Appreciate that. And of course, David Thompson, who said his bedtime is 8:30 Eastern time. Is that correct?
I'm usually in bed between 8:30 and 9, but I'm usually awake at like 3:30 or 4. Ooh. So I mean, I had some weird hours. Yeah.
So let's listen to David's schedule. David, you get up at that early hour to do some game design work. Is that right?
Yeah. From about 3:30 to 6:30 is game design time, because I don't do it in the afternoon or weekends usually because of the kids and stuff, right? So it's usually in the mornings.
And then you have a grown-up paying job after that.
Yeah. I have to pay the bills. I have a family to support.
That's great. And then Ananda, you're on the West Coast.
I am.
So, and that's another reason
Los
you're backlit.
Angeles. Can't wait for this to be live again.
Yes. Yeah. Face to face. It's been and just to rub it in, the West Coast, the weather is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just walked outside with Coco, and it was unbelievable. It's just a touch crisp, but perfect. I mean,
crisp meaning 70 Fahrenheit.
Yeah. No, it's about 70. The air conditioner. We turned the air conditioner on for just a little bit today.
Good.
So there it is.
Keep yourself comfortable.
Yeah. So anyway, David, you were at the con and you had a lot going on today. I'd love to hear what you were doing and what your impressions were of some of the stuff that was going on.
Yeah, I was able to jump on just a few minutes before my first Undaunted reinforcement session, and I just jumped into Kevin Bertram had a chat going on, so I caught the tail end of that, and it was a good discussion. It was, I think, a lot of folks were asking about production and that kind of development stuff. And then the other thing I was able to jump into quickly just before coming here was John Butterfield was showing off his prototype for the Market Garden game, which looks amazing. And I'm a huge John Butterfield fanboy, so anytime I can get to just kind of see what he's working on is gold. The only thing I had scheduled for today was the first Undaunted reinforcement session, right? So it's the sort of the first public demo of that game. It's coming out. It's scheduled to come out late this month. So, shipping gods be willing, everybody will start getting it around end of November, beginning of December. So it's a little bit unusual here because, I think you'd probably argue that the thing that most people are interested in is, or at least vocally interested in, is the solitaire. But this is probably not the convention to demo that. So I was doing more of the 4-player team-based sort of introduction. But there's so much stuff in that box that if you're a fan of the system, that's kind of a cool expansion for you.
Right. Yeah, I saw the box. Big box.
Yeah, all 3 games will fit in that box.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yep.
And I agree on the solo component. I mean, boy, check the forums on Board Game Geek. Yeah, it's been requested. So everybody's pretty excited about that.
Yeah, in full disclosure, the solo system was designed not by me and Trevor, right? The Undaunted designers. It was David Turksey kind of conceptualized it, and then David Digby probably owns the credit for most of the work. Right. And then the Osprey guys did a lot of development on it too. So a lot of people contributed to that system.
Yeah, nice. Does it have anything unique about it? I mean, is it?
I would say. So here, I'll full disclosure. So I do a lot of solo design work, but I always design those solo ground up. I don't do solo versions of multiplayer games, right? And which is why we didn't do this one. So if what I say, if you guys call my bluff and you just no, there's plenty of other games that do that. That's cool. I just don't know about them. But I think the most insane part of it is rather than try to just come up with some general system that's broadly applicable and leave it in the player's hands to kind of adjudicate a bunch, they actually developed a system that it's tailored to every scenario. And the solo system supports every scenario in Normandy, every scenario in North Africa, and the new 8 scenarios. So that's 31 scenarios, and you can play either side. So that's 62 versions.
Wow!
And every single AI is unique to each scenario and to each unit. And so it's just this unbelievable, sophisticated sort of AI that's trying to replicate a user. It's similar to a multiplayer experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I have to say that's pretty unique. I mean, most AIs, they try to do everything, right?
Right.
Imagine the board state, all the details. It has to be a one size fits all, but that's a very interesting approach. Very cool.
David, were you at the? You probably weren't at the coffee this morning.
I wasn't. No.
Yeah. So Ananda Gupta and Mark Herman talked about solo play, and I got an earful. I got in trouble for some of the things that they said, and Ananda, you're going to have to answer for that when we get around to you. But that you hurt some people's feelings.
What were the statements about solo play?
Well, I'm not gonna. I hate to rehash it for Ananda and Mark, but the discussion was just that there are some people that play games solo and the whys and the depth and how interesting it is. And
so whose feelings did I hurt besides yours? That's what I.
First of all, I play in God mode, so if I win or lose, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, two-handed play, is a species of solo that my comments don't apply to.
That's right. That's right. But there are other people that play the form that you talked about, and you hurt some feelings. I'm being honest, right? I'm all about honesty and openness. And the great Ananda Gupta hurt some people's feelings. So
some people are saying,
yes, that's right. That's right. That's
very
right.
much air quoted.
Yeah. So which means at least 2 for me, at least 2. But it's interesting, David. We're going to have a full day tomorrow of interviews as well, including the Phalanx crew and where you did Europa or Europe Divided, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to do, this is cool. So it's going to be Fred Serval versus Don Baggett from the Secret Cabal playing Europe Divided, and I'm going to do commentary, I guess. So we'll see how that'll go. When I first got into gaming, there were 2 podcasts that when I first started, I fell in love with and have been listening to ever since. One is the secret.
And I hope the other one's Roll Dice Take Names.
Yeah,
It is. It is.
Okay, good.
And Marty knows that. So Marty and Tony were like for two of the first guys I ever talked with. So and I found them from the Secret Cabal because they're friends and they were talking about the podcast. And so it's just kind of cool. So I'll be doing that Europe Divided discussion with Don tomorrow, and then Marty and I are going to get together on Sunday and chat with Trevor, my co-design partner.
Right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yep.
He's talking about solo games. David, I just opened up yours today to dig into, and I always get the name wrong. It's A Postman Only Knocks Twice. That's what it's called, right?
Yes.
So,
Postman Knocks Twice, yeah. So I haven't started yet. It's like I opened it up. It's like, oh, there's 6 cardboard sheets of punch outs I've got to do. So
my wife loves punching out the cardboard. Like when I get a new game, I hand it to her, and she just loves punching it out.
I don't like to punch anymore. I want somebody else to do it for me.
My wife and
you're not a clicker. You're not
keep block games over British murder mysteries, right? Like we stickered Command and Colors Samurai while watching. I don't remember which one, but they all involve a lot of British people dying. Britain's a very dangerous place if you believe television.
It is. Well, that and Doctor Who tells you that it's kind of creepy, right? There's some weird stuff going on. So it's very interesting. Yeah, that's one of the cool things I think related to this convention, and I hope it's something we can grow. But that's the involvement of content creators, right? All sorts of different content creators. Liz, of course, will be around Beyond Solitaire, and Candace. And then, Marty's going to do an event with you, David.
And Jason Perez is going to be chatting with Liz, right?
That's right. Right. So Jason's there. Let's see. Edward is going to do a piece on one of the Ion games. Maybe interview two. So that's great. And then the Secret Cabal piece with you and Fred. So I love the idea that that we're kind of touching other people and either amplifying them or they're amplifying us. Either way, we'll take it. And
my goal is to amplify y'all because I'm still a babe to the whole historical game stuff, and it was because I was always intimidated. There's a lot of little bits on those boards and everything, but I've always loved historical themed games. And so, truth be told, this year was the first year I ever played a coin game. And I just fell in love with the system, and I fell in love with themes and everything. And I've always been, a big fan of Undaunted. So I love the World War II theme. And I thought, what a great idea whenever somebody says, hey, do you want to ask me, I said, I want to get into an historical game, but it's really intimidating. Undaunted is one of the first ones that I'll mention. It's like, have you played a deck building game? Well, yes, I have. Well, let me tell you, here is a deck building game that's built around an historical theme that you can easily get into. And so I'm now trying to broaden. In fact, a lot of my time today was trying to learn how to play Nevsky, because tomorrow I'm hooking up with Ignacy from Portal Games. And we're going to do a little live back and forth of trying to play through our very first scenario of Nevsky. Wow. So I'm trying to get into the levy and campaign system now.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, very cool. That's great.
That's good. Well, we're around, Marty, if you need help.
I will. But y'all will be busy at the time. So
yeah, that's right. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day, but yeah, and you and I have talked about Liberty or Death at some point, so I owe you one there, and would like to do that.
Yeah,
so,
you owe me one. I'm ready. I've got it downstairs, ready to go. So, and the nice thing about that is because now that I've learned what coin is and what the system is, I've got a head start. So it's not like starting fresh. And and I've played several of the coin games now, so it's not. Hopefully, I'm 75% there when we go to Liberty or Death of like at least understanding what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
Are you finding that? I mean, conceptually, right? I mean, if you played a few, conceptually, they're very much alike. Mm-hmm. Very much alike. There's just we wargamers call a lot of the differences Chrome, the little changes for each faction that move from game to game, but conceptually, if you're able to play one, it's an easy navigation to the next.
And the next thing I'm going to is Command and Colors. I've done Memoir 44, but now I'm on the hunt for some Command and Color games, and they're out of print. Like I wanted Medieval out of print.
Right.
I wanted Ancients out of print. So it's like, come on, GMT, let's go.
Well, Marty, the first rule of economics
did Medieval
is
ever get expansions that were in the like later medieval period as opposed to like the post-Byzantine?
not an excellent question. I can't answer for you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Are you asking if they exist or are they planned? There's only one expansion so far that's on P500, so the system necessarily hasn't been expanded. I think the only major expansions are the 5 to the original Ancient series.
Right.
Marty, the first rule of economics, by the way, is that there's always a game available if you want to buy it. It's just a question of price.
That's a very good point. Yes, I did go look on eBay and I went, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll wait. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I picked up a copy, a used copy. My favorite way to buy the Command and Colors games, especially the block games, is to buy them used where somebody's gone through the trouble of sticking the stickers on.
That's how I got the whole Ancient set.
Well,
Right.
yeah, I've got a buddy that has 2 giant Echo containers, right, that he carries like toolboxes. Pat Mulvihill's probably watching, and he carries them like toolboxes that contain all the pieces for all the Ancients games.
Make it heavy.
Over there.
Is that it's
There you
similar
go.
setup?
Yeah, I see him. Yeah,
That's
make it
great.
heavy.
And Nanda, is that your what do you call that? Is that your family room or is it your work room or what is
This
that?
is our living room. This is our living room.
And your wife allows you to present your games in your living room like that.
Uh-huh.
All right, good.
She exerts some aesthetic control, right? Like the Command and Colors games because they're very colorful. They add a certain accent. But like some of the more drab boxes are not allowed out here.
Right.
My freshly acquired copy of Wings for the Baron is consigned to a more
It is sort of drab color.
less
You're
public
right.
spot. Yeah.
Didn't make the
cool.
cut. That's pretty good. Well, David, I was gonna give you the chance to beg out, and Marty, I probably should you too, given how late it is. But I do want to bring up something, and that is that you're coming to Vegas with us in March, right? And so David will be there. Just to remind everybody, we have an extension of the Dice Tower West. We're going to have a war room there. And Marty, I'm sure you're coming as well, right? You guys are going to cross the country. It's Vegas.
It's Vegas. It's a cheap flight. I'd love to come. I have not made plans to go there, but I did see y'all's war room and was immediately jealous. It's like, now I really want to go to there.
Yeah. It's going to be great. So GMT sponsoring it as well at San Diego Hist Con, Dice Tower West. So you pay one entry fee for Dice Tower West, and you get to go to our con and their con and do everything else. David's going to be there. Ananda, you are going to make every effort to be there as well, right? Have we cut that deal, or is that just with Jason?
That's just with Jason, but I'm not. I have to look at the release schedule.
There you go. That's true. Yeah, you're in proximity, so we'd love to see you there. But it's going to be good. Volko will be there. Mark Herman is going to make every effort to get up there. So we're going to have a lot of designers and a lot of gamers, and it's also going to be. Our intention is to make it a conversion friendly environment where people that haven't played the historical games, Marty, that may be where you were a year or two ago, can get exposed to them. We're going to set up some teaching events and a few really simple tournaments with some teaching in front. Twilight Struggle tournament. Marty, have you played Twilight Struggle?
Electronically. So
That's okay.
like on Steam, yes. And actually, Ignacy has really gotten to Imperial Struggle, and he said you need to get that one. So I'm probably going to pick up that one too.
Definitely.
Well,
I encourage you to do that.
both are most excellent, but I don't just say that because Ananda's here, but Twilight Struggle is the greatest game in the world. So if you don't recognize that yet, you will soon.
Oh yeah, it's a great game, fantastic game.
It's an amazing game, a great punch counter punch. But anyway, I just wanted to mention, David, that you're going to be there, and I know that you're up past your bedtime, so I was going to give you. And Marty, you're welcome to stay and chat with us as well. But I want to give you East Coasters the option to leave early if you want to, and Otherwise, you can stay for chat.
I'll hang around if David hangs around. That's
All
peer
right.
pressure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a peer pressure thing. I'll hang around for a few minutes. I will tell you that we haven't talked about this, Harold, but my plan for Vegas is Sniper. My game Sniper Elite should be coming out right then, right? So I've talked to him about trying to get a pre-production copy if it's not quite out yet. But hopefully, what we can do is we can get some non-war gamers to buy in, come up. Oh, what's this Sniper Elite game, right? The hidden movement video based on a video game, and then we'll just trick them. Once they're over, then they're a captive audience. So,
right.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a trap.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a
trap. That basically syncs with our philosophy for Vegas. Also, we're there's always going to be war gamers, right? But we're anxious to bring in new people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still growing the hobby, and we're seeing lots of younger people come in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even at this con, it's not just a bunch of 50-year-olds or 50-plus-year-olds.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with 50-plus-year-olds.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. That's why I didn't get into this till a couple years ago. I figured I had to cross that 50 threshold before I could play. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, everybody.
It's true, though.
Yeah, David's the whippersnapper here, I would suspect.
This is the only hobby in the world in which I could be considered a young guy.
Yeah, that's right.
There's pickleball.
Well, this is the convention David comes to where he puts some white in the beard. He bleaches the beard a little bit to give him some age, so he helps him with the stature. But yeah, no, it's good, and the con is. They pull over 2,000. Well, they in the before years, order of magnitude, they pull a couple thousand people into the con. So, it's a real opportunity for us to teach and use some of the games that we've all learned on to get people over the hump and over that anxiety, right? The anxiety of walking into a room full of old guys and let them experience what we all love about these historical games.
Are you still going to do? I mean, the first time, Harold, you and I met face to face was actually at Gen Con at your event that you had out in the football stadium. I forgot,
right.
Lucas Field. Is that something you'll do again next year?
Well, I don't know, Marty. The thing about Gen Con for us was, we did that event kind of unsanctioned, right? And we went into kind of open play and we set it up there. We had a great time. And I wouldn't be averse to that sort of thing. But, Gen Con wants you there for, if you're going to run an event for the duration. And they want you to bring a certain number of people consistently, right? I mean, it's a very corporate managed process. And I don't know that we fit that model, right? I mean, I think there are some things we can do, but they want events, they want event tickets, they want a dispersion across time that gets tough for us. So, I guess we'll see if there are people interested. I want to go back to Gen Con. I hope to go back this next summer. Do you guys go back every year, Marty?
Well, we do. We didn't go this past year just because it was crazy. It was like, it's not going to feel like Gen Con, so we'll wait and go next year.
Right. It's a blast. I love it. And I love just mixing with people. As you mentioned, we met there and boy, that may be the first place you and I met, David. I don't remember.
It is. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I mean, I know it was informal or whatever, but that was the highlight of the convention for me.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, and I'd been 3 or 4 years before that, and I did a dinner at Ruth's Chris and invited a bunch of designers and publishers, and everybody showed up, and we sat in there and had drinks and steaks, and it's just sorry I didn't say steaks, Volko. I had a salad. I can't say steaks if Volko's watching, but
that's right.
But yes, it's a great gathering of people. I just don't know if it fits what we like to do. So we'll see. I mean, I'd be happy to go back and just play some pickup games in the library, right?
Yep.
Which is actually one of the most embarrassing events of my life in board gaming. Not really, but a pretty embarrassing event was playing David. I was playing David, and then my friends Treg Julander and O'Shane Balloon. We were playing Andy and Abyss. We were playing Andy and Abyss, or we were playing.
No, we were playing Liberty or Death. Right?
No. We were playing Cuba Libre. We were playing Cuba Libre. We played the the 1775
Okay.
from,
Okay.
but that was a different game. But we were playing Cuba Libre, and everybody was whining about their position. Everybody. It was a continual whine fest, except for David, who's a professional. And he's here, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. But it got down to the point where I had the game won, and I closed it right on an early, like the second,
Propaganda card.
propaganda winter quarters in Cuba Libre, and so we finished it, and everybody sat there and argued and whined, and then somebody found a way to postpone my victory, but not to win it for themselves. And so the embarrassing thing was I just got furious and flipped the table, said, we're done. We're playing something else.
Wow.
Which was humiliating, and it's amazing that David still talks to me. I mean, it was childish behavior.
Wow.
Most of which was driven by me spending too much time with my other two buddies, right? And just being worn down at that point. But and that was like at 2 a.m. We played a bunch of games late, wasn't it, David? So anyway, that was the highlight of my evening. Marty, do you play a lot of games solo? How do you play these historical games?
I do not play a lot of solo games because he cheats, and it's so weird with me in solo games. It's like I don't want to do that. Did I miss that rule? Nah, whatever. I'll just move on. It's like I got to keep constant check on myself. When you're playing with somebody else or somebody else to check, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that sort of deal. Solo games, I'm too flippant about some things that I do, so I don't play a lot of solo games. So how do I play these games? So coin games we have found being able to play remotely. So say for example, I played with 3 other people. I played Cuba Libre. Each of us has the game set up on their table at home. And then what we do is somebody's kind of like the game master to where they control the event deck. And they say, here's the card that comes up. So he takes a picture of it and gives it to us. And then we pull that card up. Then everybody takes their phone and just videos their move for their turn and then sends it to everybody. And then everybody just duplicates it on their own board. It takes a while, but it works. We can play at our own pace and we get a full game in.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I mean, you have no need to use like a physics simulator, like Tabletop Simulator, but you still keep that analog feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of homey. That's kind of nice.
And that's I know a lot of people gotten into TTS, especially over the past year with COVID and everything like that. Tabletop Simulator, Vassal, etc.
With you, be happy few. We, band of brothers,
wow,
stick together because of our love.
Is this technical
For
difficulties?
this man, Bobby Factor, with you.
Is this a friend of yours, Bobby? Did you let the
some sort of Viking Celtic crossover?
Somebody forwarded the link a little
Wow,
too far.
I'm starting to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, Bobby, you need better security on your side.
Zoom bomb.
I'm
Wow.
sorry. I'm sorry you had to see that, Marty. You're a first-time guest.
I feel a little violated here.
Last
Are you-
time death.
I am. I mean, absolutely. It's the second
Are you
time.
are you familiar with the work of Dan Pancaldi? No Enemies Here.
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right. That's going to crush him. By the way, that you said.
It's a Board Gaming News podcast every Saturday morning. Historical board gamers watch like Saturday morning cartoons of old.
Yeah. But well, we'll get you a link, Marty.
There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So that's interesting that you play them that way. Who else? I saw somebody else, some other content provider of note, playing a lot of coin. Was it
Rodney?
Rodney.
Yeah, it was Rodney, wasn't it?
Yeah. I've played some with Rodney, so it was probably him.
That's pretty cool. There was a period of time where I would get questions from Rodney about Liberty or Death,
Mm-hmm.
and they're brilliant, right? I mean, he so much capitalizes on his media. He sends me a video of his question, and it's not, hey, what about this? It's usually a very sweet, elegant entry, introduction, and then a transition, and then a nice formal close.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, as you would expect, very well done. But I haven't received any of those. I think he's done with Liberty or Death.
But the thing is that I was saying about before Viking showed up, a lot of people have been playing TTS and Vassal and stuff like that. For me personally, I just like the tactile feel of a board game. I like the feel of moving bits on a board. I like the feel of holding cards.
Yep.
I don't. That's just me. A lot of people say, "Nope, I can just sit here in front of a computer and play Vassal mods and TTS all night long." I don't know. Part of the experiences to me is the tactile part. I love, like, for example, Cuba Libre. I like moving my pieces from one area to another, sort of deal. It's just, that's just me. And if there's a way I can pull that off, even though it may take longer, I'll do it.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. That's a very, very good idea, though. And if you have it set up, if you have your camera set up at the right angles, it's easy just to move those videos back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like that. It definitely approximates as much as you can, especially during the pandemic, actually gaming with people instead of just getting a file in your email box or just participating, digitally for a few hours. That's kind of a great idea. It's cool.
Yeah, it affects game design too, a lot.
Yeah. Marty, you've been playing. We didn't get a chance to include a lot of train games, 18xx games. We consider those part of the historical board game genre, right? But I've noticed, you've been playing, quite a number of them. Weren't you playing like Iberian Gauge recently? Are you attached to train games?
Gosh, so my co-host is really into train games. Like just the other night, we played Imperial Steam from Capstone Games that just came out. It's the designer was Alexander Humer, who also did who also did Lignum. So it is a very, very heavy train game. I very much enjoyed it though, and the Capstone has a lot that whole Iron and Rail, Iron Rail series.
Yep.
With Iberian Gauge, Irish Gauge. Those are amazing, and I think on our show, whenever I get into something, a lot of people like, what's the gateway? What's the stepping stone to get into stuff like that? That's why I like to talk about, okay, instead of jumping straight into 18xx, let's start small. Let's do Irish Gauge. Let's do, the Imperial still, Steam's probably a little bit heavier, but still, that's a little bit probably simpler than 18xx. We were talking about Twilight Struggle. Just the other day, I learned how to play Fort Sumter, and I thought, this is amazing. A 30-minute game that has kind of that card play feel to it. It's now on Steam, so you can play on Steam. And it's like, I'm going to get a copy of that because that's an easy 30-minute historical game that anybody can pick up and play.
Right.
That's why I like the Undaunted series. Like I said earlier, I think Europe Divided, David, that you're going to be playing tomorrow, I think it's another good little stepping stone into historical style games and mechanics that tend to be in historical games.
Yeah, definitely. I like those stepping stones too. There's something you can roll out. I mean, it's in this hobby. I mean, in our niche, it's very hard to bring people in, especially even family members, close friends. It's nice to get those stepping stones. Mm-hmm. Very nice.
And Ananda, you and I have talked a lot about train games, 18xx games in the context of game design, but do you enjoy playing them?
So I've never played an 18xx game. I don't have an objection to train games generally. I've played a number of train games, but not 18xx. Like I've played Age of Steam and
well, you mentioned Birmingham
which one?
You mentioned Birmingham this morning, right?
Oh, Brass Birmingham. Yeah, that's not a train. I wouldn't call that a train game. Like that's more of an holistic industrial revolution game.
Too many words.
Definitely one of my
but a great game.
But a fantastic game. Again, one of my top, certainly in the top 5 of my Euro my Euro games.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to the release of Ultimate Railroads, because I missed the whole Russian railroads train, so to speak. So I'm looking forward to getting in on that. I did bite the bullet and make the pre-order from Asmodee at the outrageous price they were asking, but that's okay.
But you've never been you haven't been tempted into the 18.
What's that?
You haven't been tempted into the 18xx pool.
I've been tempted. I've been tempted. I would certainly play it at a convention. I would love to play it at a convention sometime. I'd love to play one of the more entry level versions of 18xx. I did play The City with Big Shoulders, which was a game that was kind of advertised as a light version. Sort of a light adaptation of 18xx of the 18xx vibe, if you will. And I found it too mathy. Generally, Power Grid is about the limit of the math I'm willing to do. Is that true? I mean, I guess, obviously, if I'm playing Empire of the Sun, I'm signing up for the okay, we're doing okay. I rolled a 6 on D10, so we're doing 50% of the hits on the sum of all this stuff, and I'm up for that. But for mathy games, the juice has to be worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
As long as I have the in here, and Trevor Just is in the chat, I wanted to thank him for his congratulations on the Charlie. So I'm very very grateful.
Yeah. By the way, an extensive set of wins for you, right?
2 early gunpowder and best map for Terry Leeds.
Yeah.
The best map one, I think Terry knocked it out of the park, and so
Absolutely.
I'm very happy that he got that his map won the Charlie.
Yes,
very happy about that.
Yeah, epic.
Yeah, well deserved.
And I saw that there was a coupon for the Charlie Game of the Year, Steel Inferno,
which I used post haste. So.
I did as well. The coupon basically paid for the shipping.
Right.
That's right.
It's not nothing to sneeze at.
Not cheap even after the discount, but it's but I'm looking forward to it. I went. We were my daughter's in grad school in D.C., and so we were back there for a couple weeks and saw Volko a handful of times, and we drove over to his house and played the game, which of course to him it's a religious event. I've never seen him more. He's excited about stuff. That's one of the great things about playing with him is he's just into it, right? It's enthusiasm.
You're saying you played Imperial Struggle with Volko?
No. We haven't played Imperial.
We
played
Steel
Inferno. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I saw him posting about Steel Inferno on Twitter quite a lot. That was actually one of the reasons I think that was how I first became aware of the game.
Right.
Through Volko's Twitter feed, and I was super intrigued, and then I got caught by sticker shock. But now, with
20% off.
With that coupon, I decided to pull the trigger.
That's right. That's the other. I'll finish the other thing about playing with Volko is that there are a number of house rules. So you go to his house and there's not a negotiation. It's here are the rules. Here's how we play this and here's how we play that. And it clearly disadvantaged me. Clearly.
That kind of house rule.
So yeah, that kind of. So I'm sorry.
No. So I'm happy. To Trevor, who I mentioned in the chat, what's next on the horizon. I'm happy to talk about that, but but I don't want to steal the thunder of the East Coasters.
Well, the East Coasters have decided to stay.
Yeah, tell us about it. I'm excited.
So yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So what's most on my mind design-wise right now is a game about the French Revolution. I have about 3 ideas in my head that are percolating around, and that's the one that's kind of top of mind. And it's interesting on the French Revolution because I think I learned something important about how I want to do the historical research for a game. And so, because the French Revolution was a topic that I was kind of surface level familiar with and very intrigued by, but I wasn't an expert by any means, right? And I'm obviously still not, but because to be an expert on the French Revolution, would require quite a lot of devoted study. But basically, I did enough reading on the French Revolution to get a sense of the emotional state, the emotional the sort of historical immersion that I want the players to sort of marinate in during the game, and then thinking about game dynamics and mechanics that further that, and then stopping the reading, right? And then once I need content for the game, then to return to reading, right? So an example of this in the French Revolution design, and I haven't thought of a name. Actually, I could pull up my Word doc and see what are the names that I've thought of so far.
Yeah.
Off with their heads.
Let me pull this up here.
Catchy.
Do I have,
Very
do I
catchy.
have
Meat
my
cake.
name- Do I have my name scratch pad here? This is an
About the meat
advantage
cake.
of an online convention.
Another one.
I could just pull up my stuff.
In for 10%.
So because it's a 2-player game, I was thinking Struggle of Hope. There's also Spring of Hope. That's a sort of historically resonant phrase. The Holiest of Duties, which is kind of obscure, so probably not. The King's Lesson, which might be a little too on the nose.
Right.
Struggle of Hope is a likely working title, at least. But the one of the things that pops off the page of the sort of high level. So I read Jeremy Popkin's history, which is called A New World Begins, and I read and I read some other stuff, you know, and what pops off the page is the feeling that the revolutionaries had that anything was possible and that there was no limit to what they could accomplish, right? And furthermore, this was basically true, right? Like this wasn't an illusion. The number of reforms that were passed by the we often think of the revolution as a failure because they had a king again, you know, 15 years later, right? Well, they had an emperor and then they had a king again, right?
Yep.
But a number of the books that I read point out that even after the king came back, a vast number of the reforms that were passed during the revolution stayed in place, and in fact remain in place today. And so, and so to say the French Revolution is a failure because the king, you know, there was a monarchist restoration. Yeah, on the one hand, yeah, that's reasonable. But on the other hand, that also requires a blindness to the things that the revolutionaries accomplished. Anyway, so typically in games, you have, you know, you want to accomplish a bunch of things, and you have resources that you have to expend, and when you have to manage the resources and be like, okay, well, what's most important, and what should I focus on, and I have to settle for accomplishing certain things. And I actually kind of didn't. I think while that may be realistic, it is not how the revolutionaries felt. That is not how they felt at all. They didn't feel like they had resources to manage. They felt like the only resource they had, what they had to do was do as much as possible in as fast as possible. And so a key game mechanic, a key game thing that has to happen in the game is the revolutionary player has to feel like my turn could last forever. Right? My turn could go on for a long time. And you know, I could play out my whole hand, you know, if assuming I even go with cards, but I think I will, right? I could play out my whole hand. You know, there's nothing stopping me except the anti-Republican player, and you know, maybe he'll do something annoying, right? But like, you know, that's, you know, I'm trying, you know, I'm building this wave, right? Every turn is I'm building up a big wave, and I think that feeling is going to be really important to the game for the Republican player, right? And similarly, the anti-Republican player is on the receiving end of that, right? The anti-Republican player is saying, we got to figure out where we're going to stop this. Like we got to figure out how I got to figure out how I'm gonna blunt this. And this gets back to what Marty, I think, was talking about with you know, playing games on, you know, digitally, and we talked about this a little bit at the coffee, right? But like, part of my mind is trying to think about, boy, if I do this way, this is not going to be a very digital friendly game, right? Because if the anti-Republican player's primary means of interacting during this sort of wave building turn of the Republican player is playing playing interrupts, right? Like, okay, yeah, stop, I'm going to do that. that's great for live play online, but it's terrible for async play, right? For asynchronous play, because every time I do something, I have to give you an interaction window, which might delay the game, right? And so, but on the other hand, if that's the vibe that needs to happen in the game, then that's the vibe, right? So that's an example, right? But of course, yeah, and I've got a ton of other, like, there's other examples of things, of like how the mechanics can kind of support this. Like another requirement of a French Revolution game is the personalities. A game about the French Revolution is not that, is not the game I want to design unless it's got, Robespierre and Marat and Hebert and Brissot and the Royalists too, Cafalino and Cadoudal and all those people. And
what about Ananda? What about the Scarlet Pimpernel? Because Bobby, you were the Scarlet Pimpernel, as I recall, for Thanksgiving. Is that right?
For Thanksgiving?
Not Thanksgiving.
No, it was.
I thought it was
Halloween.
I thought it was a Scarlet Pumpernickel. No, that was Daffy
that's
Duck.
that's
No.
the one for Thanksgiving.
That's the Thanksgiving one. Sorry, go ahead.
It's funny how so many French Revolution games feel compelled to include the Pimpernel. Honestly,
Yes.
not in this one.
That's awesome.
I think it's really interesting, this conversation here, because this is the panel that I'm going to be doing with David and Trevor on Sunday. I'm so interested about how you designers here, you great minds that are here, will take this historical thing that happened and then make a game out of it. And then it's just very interesting to me. It's like, how do you translate stuff that happened in history books into something that we can play on the table, which is, again, what my whole hour panel is. I'm going to be grilling David and Trevor about this. It's like, David, how in the world did you say, I'm going to do a World War II deck building game we're actually going to play through scenarios and stuff? It's like, how do you like this French Revolution? How do you research all this stuff and then say, okay, I can put this into moving pieces around on a board and playing against another person? It just blows my mind how y'all do that.
Well, if we can get David to answer it now, we can completely ruin your show and you'd have nothing to talk about.
Then
Well,
I could take a nap on Sunday afternoon.
I think the interesting thing about that show, Marty, is going to be that I think that, without getting into the nitty gritty, that, we all can say that we probably come from similar places in our approach to modeling a game and all that. But it's a very different, and we'll probably all have a lot of similarities here, but it's a very, very, very different thing from Trevor, what he's going to talk to you about, because he doesn't care very, very little about history, right? He's a gameplay guy first and foremost. And so it's an awesome partnership for me to have with him, because, Bobby mentioned the concept of Chrome earlier. And so I'm not a huge Chrome guy. Like I weigh every decision about whether it's a necessary thing to model and how much Chrome is the right amount of Chrome. But Trevor is on the other end, right? He's a guy who loves minimalism and elegance in game design, almost at the expense of anything else. So I think it'll be cool to have a non-historical game designer as part of that discussion.
Minimalism and elegance.
It's funny because we talk a little bit about, and Ananda's can say this better than I can, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. The reality is that that there's a big difference between the if I can generalize and say Euro game versus war game, and I hate both terms, but the reality is that that many Euro games you can change the theme. Right, and in war games we don't even understand that, right? I mean, when David starts, I would suspect he starts with something very specific, at least for me. Right?
We spent the first chunk of this podcast or of this talk talking about the coin games.
That's right.
The coin games are kind of theme swapping a little bit there.
Yeah, I know you're the coin skeptic, Ananda, but I think that it's a system that's common, right? There are systems.
If I am a coin skeptic, it's not because of that. I think that's one of the great things about the coin games. But I think coin did show that there is actually more theme interchangeability in a good war game system, right? Like the area impulse games are another example. I've just started getting
hex,
into that
hex
this
and
year.
counter, right? Hex and counter.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I think the coin games are a better example because they keep the core, like a lot of them keep the core actions intact.
Right.
You know, the rally march sweep, and interact with the support markers. You know, as they, right, like Pendragon, which I just got a copy of but haven't had a chance to play yet. I'm really looking forward to Pendragon because that's one that really doesn't do that as much. I mean, it still has some common elements, but yeah, commands and colors from the chat, absolutely great point.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that because it's kind of an epiphany I had as I started getting into historical games. I love Euro games, but it's true that a Euro game, for example, and this isn't dissing it, but anyway, I played Zapotec the other night from Board and Dice, a great game. I enjoy it, and Board and Dice has all these great T games, you know, Technu, etc. And it's like, oh, here's an Egyptian theme, and here's a Mayan theme. But once I got into the game, it all washed away. And yes, I'm putting pyramids on the board, and I'm getting stone and wood and everything. But then it becomes just a math thing to me. Well, I need to get 2 of these in order to create this, in order to get victory points and stuff. That for me, that doesn't happen in coin games. When I read an event card, Cuba Libre, for example, and there's a picture on there, and there's a little bit of text, and it's like, okay, this means something. You know, the theme doesn't wash away from me as much as it does in regular Euro games, and I think that's why I'm really getting into them now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. There is a difference between chrome and flavor, right? Like that text on coin events is flavor text, but the cards themselves are chrome. And the fact that cards are a really good way of injecting chrome is one of the great innovations of the last 20 years, right?
Right. Well, the cards also act as a way to get stuff out of the rules and onto the players' hands when they need it, as opposed to having to read through, Richard Berg's random events tables.
That's what I mean by they're an elegant way of injecting chrome, right? Because chrome used to live in the rule book, which made it more obviously chrome, right?
Sure.
Cards are more subtly chrome.
Sure.
The interesting thing that was said earlier was minimalism and elegance, which to me, so I think both of those are good things. Well, I think elegance is a good thing, but I don't think it's the same thing as minimalism. The research and diplomacy system from A World at War is very elegant, but it is very, very not minimalist.
Right.
It's pretty maximalist.
What about Cataclysm?
So Cataclysm,
really like
Cataclysm, I would say the same thing about Cataclysm. Cataclysm is, in my opinion, the core of a Cataclysm is very elegant. Nonetheless, Cataclysm is a difficult game to teach because Cataclysm has a ton of triggers that have to be enforced. There's a ton of triggers that players have to be constantly looking out for in Cataclysm, and that makes it hard to teach. And I am not sure that I would call that assortment of triggers elegant. But I do think that Cataclysm did embrace minimalism, in particular in the units in the map, for example, in a way that was very refreshing. And I think, Cataclysm was one of my favorite games the year it came out in like 2018, I want to say. I thought Cataclysm was a masterpiece. However, I think the subsequent development of the rules in Cataclysm, which have, I think, made it a little less minimalist, which I think have improved the game. But it's definitely, I think Cataclysm had to back off from the minimalism a little bit. And yeah, there are parts of Cataclysm that are incredibly elegant, and there are parts of Cataclysm that are not especially elegant, but I think are worth it. I think they're still net positive on the game. Like all those triggers, once you figure them out, like once you know what all the players have to be listening for all the time, those triggers make for a pretty interesting game.
Marty, have you considered Combat Commander? That's another. Yeah, and I don't know that it's an easy game. It's very different than all the games you've talked about because it's intensely tactical, right? It's at the small squad level but it is so immersive. It's the game that I find really drives the this interchangeability of theme out the door. It's an extraordinary experience, and if you haven't played it yet, you need to get it, or we need to get you online and get you through a game because it's an extraordinary piece of work.
Oh, great. Let me go ahead and add it to my wish list. Sheesh. Thanks.
Well, it's almost Christmas, so
That's true. This is one of those style of historical games that looks cool, and I'm just going to back away because it just looks so intimidating with so many bits and pieces on the board. But it's one of those things that I'd love to try. Especially if somebody can just teach me how to do it, I will do it. I'm willing to try anything and everything at this point. So
yeah, good. Well, you've made great progress. We're just trying to get you the rest of the way there.
I'm really interested to see. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be playing Nevsky,
Yes.
which is getting some resources, moving around a board, and battling. I'm curious to see if the theme washes away from me in that style game or not, because it's probably approaching a little bit more of a Euro-y thing. So I'm wanting to see how well the theme holds up for me when I start getting into it.
It's interesting, right? It pulls logistics into a conflict system in a very nice way. And I find myself when I play that game, much not necessarily worrying about the theme washing away, but just living in the regret of the mistakes that I made setting up what I'm trying to do. And again, I curse Volko every time, but that's the game. It pays dividends if you prepare. And I always fail at the preparation. So it's a story of my life, though, isn't it, Bobby?
He's saying that, but we spent about a full week playing Combat Commander every day, 14 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And his tactical planning ability is pretty good, gotta say.
Yeah, that was great. Bobby and I spent during COVID. We were going to have a big weekend where we're going to bring in 4 people and play a week of games with the 4 of us. And suddenly 2 end up, they can't make it. And so Bobby and I just played Combat Commander for a week.
Wow. How long does a game of Combat Commander take?
Well.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean, it's so variant, right? Like,
yes.
If depending on the cards, it could be 20 minutes.
Depending on the players. Yeah, it can be pretty detailed. I like what you say, though, Marty, about, having that theme wash over you, right? A lot of people I play quite a number of solo games, especially during the pandemic, right? So narrative is very important to me. Like David's games, like Undaunted, they present a lot of narrative. Combat Commander gives a lot of narrative. But the beauty of historical board games, right, are they all have built-in lore. If you're a fan of games like Arkham Horror and other game series that have all this built-in lore, every war game or historical board game already comes with that built in. And then you can also get another 1,000 books on a single subject, or 10,000 for the French Revolution, for instance. And you can just steep yourself in it. And then you let that wash over you. And then that will lead you to playing the game a little deeper. There's a saying at Charles Vazia, a designer. He mentions this, and I like re-mentioning it every time this comes up, is every historical board gamer buys a book. And then they want to buy a game related to the book. And they may not even play that game. They may just set it up, read the rules, but that leads them to buy another book. And then maybe another game. And then maybe they get it played. And this endless feedback circle. And that's how that theme continues to wash over you with historical board games. There's always that lore present that you can use.
Yeah, you always know. You always have a baseline of what it means to play well.
Yes,
right, which you don't have, right? Like if you know who won the battle, then you know what it means to play well, which is you won the battle when you were supposed to. When your historical counterpart lost, or you do even better than they did, even though they won, right? Like that's a really important part of the lore to me, anyway. It's like, okay, well, can I outdo Can I outdo what happened historically? Can I overcome what the people who were in this situation couldn't?
So you don't see that as, for some reason, I have a hard time getting over the hump of, so let's say, for example, let's take Liberty or Death since Harold's here, of playing that and like the British winning. It's like, but that's not how it happened. For some reason, then I have a little bit of a disconnect. It's like, but that didn't play out the way it was supposed to. So that's interesting that you look at it as, well, I know how it happened. Can I make it happen the other way? So that's a really good way to approach it, and how I should think about it when I go into a game and things don't play out exactly like they did.
Right.
That's, historians call that counterfactual arguments, right? And what would happen if things changed, if things were different, and you know, studying history through, if you're General Howe, right, in 1776, and you land with the biggest army ever moved in New York City, what do you do? And that choice is the counterfactual point, right? You have the ability to do something different than Howe did. And perhaps lead. You have the ability to negotiate with the native faction and set up something different, more effective than the British did. And then you might have a different, you know, George Washington may make different decisions. But anyway, Marty, that's the disease we all have. That's going to be the answer to David's question. And you have, and I'm proud to say that you are in the early stages of said disease. And so good to have you here, and good to see everybody at the con. Ananda, thanks for coming on short notice.
Of course.
Marty, a pleasure to see you, and I'm so glad that you are you interested in these games and you're involved. David, thank you again for coming on short notice, well past your bedtime. And if I were you, I would just stay up until tomorrow at this point.
Yeah, might as well. At this point.
You're already there. And
Sure.
Bobby, you're the man. So appreciate
nice
you
to meet you,
guys, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.
Have a good
Take
night,
care,
everybody.
everyone.
Take care.
Thanks for the
Good
chat.
night.